How's married life anyway, man?
Alhamdulillah, everything is good, man.
Yeah. Is the wife okay?
Alhamdulillah, yeah, everything is good, man. Everything is good, Alhamdulillah. Yourself?
Good, man.
How's the missus? Is she well?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, she's okay. She's all right.
Okay. Yeah,
It gets easier over time.
yeah,
When you get used to each other's weaknesses and strengths,
yeah.
everything starts becoming normal. I'd say the
No, no.
first year is always the settling in period, and after that, everything is just normal, which is a good
Yeah,
thing. But I guess it can
yeah.
also be a bad thing because as humans, naturally, when we get
Mm,
used to something,
mm.
we start getting a little too comfortable, right?
I know. But we have the direction of the deen,
Yeah, yeah,
and it always
100%.
helps, I mean, when you educate yourself, how to resolve and deal with certain situations.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love the challenge, man. How about the other brothers? Are they married?
I'm married. I've got a daughter as well. Um,
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
But
yeah.
the other one isn't married.
The other one isn't married.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not yet, bro. But make dua, inshallah.
Do you know what the funny thing is?
Yeah.
Everyone that comes onto the podcast always brings that up. If they ask a question, is everyone married? And he's always the one that puts his hand up and says, "No, not me."
I might stop saying it now because enough people know it.
Are we ready to start then?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Let's go for it.
Cool, cool. So, welcome to episode 28 of Connotations. We've got a special guest who is also my very good friend, Ali Jalloh. I don't really want to introduce the topic. I kind of want it to flow naturally, so that's what we're going to do today. Ali, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, who
Yeah.
you are, your friend, where your friend. I'd the word friend in my head, so I was like, where your friend, where you're from, and yeah, anything relevant that you think the people should know.
Yeah. As the brother said, my name is Muhammad Ali Jalloh. I'm originally from, Africa. Come from a community called the Fulani people. So my background is Islamic, from generations and generations. And, AJ is a very close brother to me. We've known each other for about 5 years now, maybe
Probably,
more than
probably
that.
a bit longer than that.
Maybe.
Maybe 6 to 7 years.
Yeah, yeah, mashallah, very good brother. We built up a good friendship and a good relationship over the years. We've always, kept in touch. And alhamdulillah, we all try to study, try to learn, try to come together, as a community. And we try to meet from time to time, whether we organize, a meal, we go to a restaurant, and we've got group chats as well. So we've always tried to, keep in touch together. Alhamdulillah.
I think one of the most important things to also mention is that our group of friends that we built in Brighton. So I went university in Brighton, and that's how I met Ali and also some other brothers as well. We actually met in the gym, um,
Yeah.
a place that I haven't been in a long time. Um, and one of the things that I wanted to mention was we had quite a multicultural group. So we were all from different places, different ethnic backgrounds, but we never treated each other any differently. And I guess that's what the topic of this podcast was going to be, because we were supposed to shoot this maybe 7 to 8 months ago. I don't know, quite a few months ago, around the time the podcast started. And I mentioned to Brother Ali, look, I've got a podcast. One of the things that I want to discuss with you, because it's something that we personally discussed as well, is racism that he's had from the Asian community. And obviously, this is an Asian podcast. We have the majority of our audience being Asian. And it is quite an interesting topic to discuss because there's so many different views on it. But of course, hearing it directly from the horse's mouth and someone that's actually experienced it can be quite insightful, because there's me, a brown Asian person, having my opinion, but then there's Ali, a black brother, having his own opinion as well, which obviously he experienced firsthand. So I guess my first question to kind of kick this off would be, when did you first experience racism in the Asian community?
Well, I would not say I have, you know, I will not say it's a direct thing. I will not say it has affected me like directly, like an Asian brother come up to me and insulted me, called me a nigger or anything like that. But it's more like a subtle thing. It's more like an indirect thing. For example, if you look at the communities, where we live in here in the UK, unfortunately, the vibe around it is more like a tribal thing, like a nationalist thing. Everyone hang around their own people. Even when you go to the masjid, you see the Asian brothers hang around each other, the Arab brothers hang around each other, the African brothers hang around each other. But coming to your question, you feel it more. For example, when you have issues to deal with marriage, So I'm speaking, personally from my experience and other African brothers' experiences. For example, I give you a little story. I have an African brother here in Brighton. He's a very nice brother. He's very easy to get along with. Very funny guy. The kind of guys that everyone loves to listen to. So he wanted to marry one of the brothers, daughters that he knew in marriage, and they're very close. But when he made that move to marry the sister, and he told the brother about it, the brother, completely changed on him. He didn't want to speak to him anymore. Basically, gave him the impression that my relationship with you is only talking, joking, or laughing within the bounds of the masjid. Outside the masjid, I don't want anything to do with you, basically.
That's interesting. Because I've a few experienced similar sort of situations where they went for to ask someone's hand in marriage, and they got rejected because of not the color necessarily, but just they weren't Asian, they weren't Pakistani. In this case, they weren't Arab. But I would say that it might not necessarily be racism. It might just because what tends to happen is in Asian families is when you give away your daughter or your sister. Obviously, I don't know your situation, but you want them to be in a house where they can easily sort of fit in culturally and everything sort of pieces together. Obviously, that's not the absolute, that's how it's supposed to be. It's not how it's supposed to be, but just for their own, just for the daughter's sake or the sister's sake, they try and look for people who are similar, sort of within the same community. Obviously, there are families that go overboard with this. They basically say not only does it have to be the same community, it has to be the same caste, so a sub community from the community, and they sort of, or some families even force their daughters, and especially in the Asian community, to marry sort of cousins and things like this, only because they're so uncomfortable with having relations with somebody outside of their own household, that they would go to those lengths to make, basically enforce those kind of rules. So it's not always, I don't think it's always racism. However, I do agree that if a black brother was to come to an Asian house to ask for somebody's hand in marriage, I think there would be some kind of controversy within the family to say whether it should be they should give the hand or not.
And that's the case in the current generation. So if you look at the generation before us, they'll be very strong on that. They're more so stuck in their ways. They wouldn't accept anything outside it, kind of thing. Especially when it comes to culture and country and ethnicity and all this stuff. But I think What I do agree with you is, I'm not saying I don't agree on the racism part, by the way. I'm just highlighting another issue, which is the issue of colorism. So even within our community,
Mm.
it's difficult because a lot of families will discriminate even Asian Muslims of a slightly darker skin tone. They would discriminate against them. Now it is a common issue, say back home and even here, to an extent. However, as you see the newer generations coming along, that view is more so getting diluted. People are expanding a bit more. So I think it's one of those things where we're in a time where we're going to see both. We're in a transitionary period, so to speak. We're going to see the extreme end of it from our previous generation, and we're also going to see the more accepting side of it in the future coming generations.
Yeah. But brother, I would say that it wasn't, I don't think it was always like, it wasn't always like this. I think we kind of inherited, because we're from the subcontinent. So we're from we were India, you know, and as a nation, that India is quite nationalistic and they're quite strong with their values, and we kind of inherited um, those those kind of principles. Because if you can imagine, um, back in the days, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he passed away, some Sahaba went to the subcontinent and spread the message of Islam, and uh, people people came to Islam and it grew in that region. But the cultures from, say, Hinduism or other older, their religions of their forefathers, it stayed. And there's a lot of there's a lot of nationalism. There's a lot of, you know, caste system, the hierarchy system that we've sort of inherited in our culture. And some, you know, unfortunately, the there is a huge market in the subcontinent for example, lightening your skin color, um, or the general perception is the lighter you are, the better looking you are. So definitely, colorism does exist um, in our community, um, but there are certain, like I've never experienced it, as in I've never, in my head, I've never like I was born here, brought up here. I've never had friends who were black who I thought, you know, I've never had that skewed mindset. Um, and we weren't brought up in those kind of households. We were all told that, Muslims, we're all brothers and sisters, and um, human beings, we're all sort of equal. It's just how good you are is what makes you different, or how good or bad you are is what makes you different. So I've never really experienced it. I'm talking from stories and experiences from other people that I've witnessed.
Yeah. Yeah, just to touch up on that, brother, you made really good points on that, sometimes if you haven't, experienced a certain issue, maybe you don't understand it from the other point, other person's point of view. And that's why, alhamdulillah is very good, we have this kind of conversations so we can understand, different people's point of view. But I think you touched upon very, important things there, about the ethnicity, about, the different caste system or colorism or things like that, If we look back, on the Sirah, if we look at the history of Islam, the reason why, it spread and it won the order of the day, in the past, is because of the Sahaba, the Prophet, the Sahaba, the Tabi'in and the Atba Tabi'in. They were the best of generation because they understood the true essence, the knowledge of this deen. So they went around the world, they mixed with the people, they introduced the people, with this deen of Islam, and they acted upon the Sunnah because they understood it. They acted upon the Sunnah and the Hadith, and that's why this message of Islam spread in all corners of the world, right? And when it comes to ethnicities and things like that, that's why we say Islam is suppressed under the under the, is suppressed under tribalism and nationalism. The true essence, the true spirit of Islam has been suppressed. And
Yeah.
this is a post-colonial narrative, because basically what happens when we divided, when we become small little groups, we are designed to be dominated. And that's exactly, unfortunately, what is happening to the Muslim Ummah today, because we're not following the true essence, we're not following the true teachings of Islam, of this deen. We under our flags, I'm a, Pakistani, I'm an Arab, like, I don't know if you listen to the talk of Khalid Yassin, he jokes and said, the Pakistani don't like the Arab don't like the Pakistani, and the African don't like anyone, you know. So basically, that's the spirit. And for example, I'm not saying you should take your daughter and give him to someone because someone asks you to say, what, you have to give him to an African brother. No. I think we lack community, social responsibility in the community, right? I think if you look, alhamdulillah, like AJ said at the start of the video, in Brighton, we are very, diverse community. You have different people from different backgrounds, different races, meeting together in the masjid, talking together, socializing together, getting, getting together with events or whatever, what I mean? And this helps us to know each other. This helps us to know our differences. We respect our differences, you know. So
Can I just add something to that point as well? In the
yeah,
last episode, so we shot the last episode in our native language with my uncle. My uncle, he's a psychologist, right? And
right.
one of the things that he mentioned when we were talking about Islam was he made a point. Basically, he came to England once, and he was told that in Blackburn they have the most masjids. And one of the point that he was basically trying to make was they have the most masjids, but they're all basically Asian mosques or Asian masjids, if that makes sense.
Or like they're separate. There's so many because they want to separate
Yeah,
them.
yeah. And
Yeah.
here in Reading, where I live, the masjid that my family go to predominantly Pakistanis. Even their khutbah is in Urdu. The only diverse masjid, or not the only, but one of the diverse masjids, most diverse masjids that I've been to was in Brighton, where you see people of so many different backgrounds. You see white people, black people, Asian people, even some Oriental people. But within the Asian community, we have a lot of tight knit masjids where it's only Pakistanis, and I think that's one of the reasons why it contributes to things such as colorism and things like that. It's ignorance as well. We're not used to seeing other cultures because we're so involved within our own cultures.
Yeah, because not to cut you there, AJ, the thing is, like you said, like me and you, for example, before we met each other, I would say, oh, this is just another, you know, another typical Asian kid, right? You probably see
Yeah,
me and say, oh, this is another typical, black guy. You understand? But when we get together, we learn so much from each other. We respect each other. You even invited me to your house, for example. I even told you, I said, you're the first Asian brother that actually invited me to your house,
yeah. I
because
still
with
can't
the other
believe.
Asian brothers, we talk, we laugh, whatever, we meet outside. And that means a lot because you learn so much from the other person.
Yeah. One of the
That's the
things that
beauty. That's the
really,
beauty of Islam because it brings us together.
yeah, definitely. And one of the eye openers for me was when I went to Hajj, and the Imam was at the Haram. He was black, and because I always thought that in those kind of countries, colorism exists like it does in Pakistan or India. But when I went there, I realized it's not in the Arab countries. It's a little bit less colorism. It's more sort of, is so and so an Arab, or are they a non-Arab kind of thing. So I did feel a little bit of racism from like the airport officials and things like this in those countries. But when I went to Makkah and I saw the Imam was black and a lot of the sheikhs, they were black. um, I've realized that it's just something in our in our community, in our Asian community. But to be fair, and obviously I'm not defending it, but you have to understand that, we are, what, third generation Pakistanis here, or fourth or something. So we haven't been here for a long time for us to sort of integrate and sort of, assimilate with everyone of different, we're still sort of in that process. Like Akib mentioned, that we're in that transition process right now. I've I can say that I've had I've had, like, my best friends were Oriental. I've had black friends, and I've never seen a difference. I've never personally, I've never. But when you speak to some of the adults and some of the elders, and you sort of take a step back and say, whoa, it's a difference in thinking, really.
Yeah, and our Asian community's bad habit of generalizing as well. If they see someone, like, say, how in the media nowadays people say if there's a Muslim that's done a bad act, they'll paint the Muslims with the same brush. Back in their day, there was a lot of crimes around the area that were committed by the black community, according to them. And because of that, they generalize, they paint everyone with the same brush. But because we mix with people, we've got black friends, and we understand their history, and we studied a bit more. We realize it's not the case. You can't do that, because we don't like it to us when it's happened.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's happening to us. Like, if you think about from the perspective of a white person, generally, depending on where you live, but generally, like, if there's an Asian guy, like right now I live in Tame, which is near Oxford, and it's a predominantly white area. And when I moved here, because I'm brown, I felt it. I felt that people were looking at me different. So we are like the Asian youth. How Asian parents used to generalize about black people. Now we are being generalized by the white people. White people have always generalized black people, but we are kind of feeling a little bit of that now, or growing up. And AJ will tell you, like, growing up in Oxford, there was a big divide between black kids and brown kids, and that was because of the area, wasn't it? So there was Black Budleys and sort of the Asian community in Cowley. We always had clashes, and there was always friction. But as we grew older, we realized that it was just some stupid, like, childish things. It was things that we
inspired by, like, the grime culture on that and all that. I think AJ could probably talk about a bit more about that.
Yeah.
I think, fortunately as well, when the other brother, when he spoke about, whitewashing, it is a big issue, especially, in the media, because if you look, even our backgrounds, when we look at our fathers, when we were growing up, you never see a rapper or a gangster or a pimp or whatever you call it. They were respectable men. They were hardworking men,
Yeah.
They had, whatever skills set they have, they did that, and they brought us up in, mashallah, alhamdulillah, they gave us all the education and all the basic necessities that we need. Unfortunately, you never see it out there, because the narrative of what they advertise out there, the black man, is a rapper, he's a gangster, he's the bling bling guy, he's the road man, So unfortunately, if you are lazy, with your information, you believe that. When you, for example, I see people, like when I walk around sometimes, yeah, what's up, brother? Do, what I mean, do that. What I mean? Like, So like you said, it's a child, you're coming from, childish and being lazy and just looking at the TV or whatever.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why for
yeah,
me it's very important to have this sense of brotherhood, to have a sense of community, you know,
yeah,
where actually we come together, we know people, as an individual, you know, and this is what is going to make our communities better. And the other thing is, like we're talking about, Asian and blacks or whatever. Like you said, we are third generation. This is a fight that no one can win. Ultimately, the races they're gonna come together. Whether you want it to happen in a halal way, in an acceptable way, in a respectable way, or it's gonna happen the other way. Because whether you like it or not, black and Asian people they're mixing. So do you want to organize it properly where they're gonna be mixing in an acceptable way, or do you just want to ignore it as a problem that doesn't exist? You know. And for
yeah,
example, we have to be honest with ourselves as well. For example, we call ourselves Muslims, but sometimes um, we sell alcohol in the shop because it makes money. You don't talk about that. But then you see a respectable brother, someone from the masjid, like AJ, a few brothers, you come from a good family, and he wants your daughter in marriage, but you say no, he's haram for your daughter. How does that work?
yeah. I don't think they can, to be honest, in this day and age, I don't think the information we have available in terms of like Islam and Hadith and everything, I don't think they're using the it's haram because they can't, because it's obviously not haram. But they're using other sort of, so it's like, there's too many differences. There's um, cultural and how how is it going to work out back home? Who?
That's the problem. It always comes back to culture.
Yeah,
I know that in Pakistani Islam, if we can call it that, there's a lot of culture involved within that Islam as well. So I guess it's if I don't know, let's say someone's this person will just give, I don't know, a random person, an Asian man, his daughter comes and says, I want to marry a black man. First thing that will come into his mind, yes, is maybe the color, but he'll also think, well, we do all these other traditions. He's going to take you away from that. And a lot of these aren't actually Islam, they're just cultural.
mm,
And
yeah,
the
and
culture is what divides us, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely,
That's
man.
the
And
problem. Like I said, it's like we are little boxes. What I mean? We have been divided into little subgroups, and we have no power. What I mean? We cannot impose ourselves because there's a power out there. We know the power. We know the order. They are well
yeah,
united and they are well organized, right? So
yeah,
that's what we that's what we have to analyze, right?
yeah, definitely,
If
and
we want to get to our objective, get to our goal, right?
yeah, yeah, and like people need to realize, like you talk about, the real power in the world and everything. A lot of the powers or these uh, religions, I don't want to say religions because it's too controversial, but a lot of these, communities, they the only reason they progress is because they don't like certain people in their circles. So it's quite obvious that there's a lot of classism involved in those sort of communities, whereas Islam, it promotes the opposite. It promotes social. Like, your identity is as a Muslim is a Muslim. You might have different cultures, but at the end of the day, you are all Muslim. So you're not. Um, Islam and maybe Christianity are quite similar in that regard. But I was listening to a really nice lecture the other day about racism in Islam, and what the guy was talking about was the race of Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. And what he was saying is, it's obviously the appearance of Jesus is not described in the Quran. Um, but what he's saying is, it's most likely that Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, was a black man. So his hair was nappy, and where he was where he was from, like the area that he was, from, it's most likely, it makes sense, the community that he was from, that he was black. So for Asian people who they have this sort of racist mindset, or one of the most beloved prophets was most likely a black man. So you can't really discriminate on that regard. Islam definitely doesn't teach us that. There's Hazrat Bilal, who is the first man to enter Jannah, is a black man. And there's so many different stories or events in Islamic history that prove Islam is definitely not a religion that promotes this kind of colorism or racism. In fact, it's the opposite. So
That's a good point, and then sometimes that would be a hard pill to swallow. I think the problem is the history we have been taught in our present world has been a history narrated from a European perspective, and the
yeah,
history behind that, it has been hidden, to suit a certain, narrative, how they want it to look. But if you go back in the history, like for example, if you look at ancient Egypt and you look at different civilizations in the past, this race was never really an issue, because you look at different classes of people, it doesn't matter what color they were, but they were in a high position, they were in a military position, they were in a strong economic position, but I think again, the responsibility, because first time, we coming together, we start meeting and we discussing, we communicating, it's our responsibility to bring out the true history, and teach ourselves to respect each other with that history. Because even with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he, there are researchers coming up now. Well, it's a fact. It's even in a hadith. That when they were persecuted in Mecca, right? He ordered them to go to Africa, to Abyssinia in modern day Ethiopia and Eritrea.
yeah, yeah.
So the first Muslims that went to Africa, like most of the history tells us about the second phase and the third phases. They went to Africa not as conquerors, but they went to Africa as refugees.
Mm.
And even most of the most notable, Sahabas were among them, like Usman bin Affan. Like one of the cousins of the Prophet, Ali's brother. I forgot his name. Bin Abu Talib. Even the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They went to Africa and they seek refuge in Africa. And there are even sayings now that there are masajids built in Africa in modern day Eritrea and Somalia that were built before even Medina. And this history is there. You can look at it for yourself. But for some reason, we try to avoid this history. We don't elaborate on this history, right?
Yeah.
And because, like I said, the people who have the power, who own the media, they have their narrative and they want us to look at things and hear things how they want us to see, or they want us to hear them, right? But the young generation, the more we learn, the more we know about, it's our responsibility to bring out the true spirit. Know that it doesn't matter what color you are, what country you're from. It doesn't matter. Every community, there's always good and bad in every community. Greatness has come from all over the world, from every nation, from every race. So the more we know that, the more we bring out these stories and teach other about the spirit of these stories, I think, the better we're going to be at, respecting each other and taking it that further, inshallah.
Yeah. And I mean, like another example is Malcolm X, when he was part of the Nation of Islam, which was a black nationalist sort of movement. I don't even think they were Muslims, because they believed in a prophet after the Holy Prophet. But he was part of Nation of Islam, and he went to Hajj and he saw all the different races there, and he reverted to Islam and got killed for it. So, and he there's a really YouTube it, look it up on YouTube. But the speech that he gave about when he went to Hajj and he saw the different races, and it sort of opened his eyes. It's quite powerful. But yeah, we should look at our similarities before we start looking at, because unfortunately we find, like Asian people, we find more things similar. We find more similarities with other brown people, even if they're not Muslim. For example, the way we celebrate weddings, we might have certain rituals that are not Islamic, but we inherited them from sort of Hindu weddings. So it's and I'm sure if you go to Africa, go to certain countries, they have certain traditions that are not Islamic, but they are from their forefathers or whatever. So I think there's always going to be that that sort of those differences. But if we just understand that they will always be there, because Islam was for everybody, for different cultures, for different regions, for different backgrounds. It wasn't like just because, for example, in the Arab countries, they wore the thobe and the turbans and stuff like that. We, as Muslims who live in other parts of the world, we don't necessarily have to dress like them, but we are still Muslim because we are, we have Islam. Or like, for example, somebody who lives in a cold climate, they don't have to dress in a thobe because, they have to dress appropriately. So it's not like we have to change our cultures fully, but obviously there are things that it would be nice if we could sort of let go of, like nationalism and holding on to your pride.
Brother Ali, your friend who didn't end up marrying the Asian woman, what's his state now? What is he? Is he married to another Asian woman? Is he married to an African woman? Or I mean, how did he deal with that situation?
No, he's not married. He's not married now, or he found a suitable sister. But the thing is, this is the problem about the Muslim community. We sometimes judge too quickly. We ask people, why are you not married? But then if you come closer to the brother and he explains to you why he's not married, then you might understand why he's not married. I'm not saying you should only marry an Asian sister, but maybe he understood that that sister was good for him. So maybe even though he's not married, maybe that's going to delay him getting married, right? And we know as young men, if you're not married, you're always going to be, distracted with fitna and doing unhalal things, right? But even myself, for example, the brother agent knows, I have had friends, with, Asian sisters, alhamdulillah, all good, and I only met one family, so I got to a position where I nearly got married to an Asian sister. But in this case, it wasn't the fault of the family. It's just that the more we get to know each other, we realize that we were not compatible. But, even with that, we still stayed friends. We had the respect, of each other. So there is hope that, it's changing, because maybe 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, this would have been unheard of. This would have been an impossible thing, you know what I mean? So, alhamdulillah, for the generations that are born here, some of them who are interacting, the mindset, is changing. Well, again, I have to stress that you don't only give your daughter because someone says, you have to do it. You have to check the background. No, this is a good Muslim brother. I know he's got a good, he even if he hasn't got a good job, but he's got a job. He's a responsible guy. So maybe rather than just dismissing this kind of people, maybe you need to look at it.
Ali, can I
look at it? That's Allah wills, maybe let it happen. Maybe the best thing can come out of that. Maybe this brother that you're refusing, maybe is better than the Asian brother that you want for him to marry your daughter.
Ali, can I kind of flip it on its head and ask you, if let's say in a different world you were to marry or get married to an Asian sister, what would your family's response be? Is there any I don't know, taboo against Asians or like another race, even like a white girl or something? outside of your own race?
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, it's a natural thing. Everyone, everyone love their own people. That's a natural thing. You know, everyone would love to marry, you know, and have children. Because if someone asks you, you imagine when you're growing up, who you're gonna marry. You know, ultimately, I'm gonna think in my head, I'm gonna have a black wife, I'm gonna have black children. You know what I mean? Automatically, that's how you're gonna think. But to be honest with you, it's not only an Asian problem; it's a universal problem. You know, I think if I was to marry, tell my family that I want to marry an Asian girl, they will be very concerned. They will not necessarily be concerned because of the race of the sister, because my family, they're very accommodating. You know, if you're a Muslim person, they are very tolerant. You know, they can communicate with you, right? But they will be concerned more so about the background of the person. They'll be concerned more so about the, you know, where you belong. You know, like the children. You know, um, they'll be concerned, you know, whether you're doing it just for the beauty or whether you're doing it because you're doing it for the right reasons, if you understand what I mean. So
Yeah.
yeah, the what do you call it? The challenges are there, but I believe if you really you know, if you're really serious about it, and then you know you take it further, you know, you do the actions, you know, to show them that this is what kind of person they are, what kind of background they are, what kind of family they are, and the families they talk to each other. I think you know they will be you know accepted.
Yeah, and I guess it relates back to culture and familiarity again. Like if my family have you know, throughout the years or even throughout their whole lifetime been if they've been eating like chapati and curries their whole lifetime, they're not going to suddenly then change and, you know, start eating jollof rice and, you know, like an African
Yeah,
dish. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
familiarity.
no, no, no.
They're used to that specific idea. They're used to being around their own kind or whatnot. To suddenly then see something different come in, it's like, whoa, what's this? I'm not used to this. And
Yeah,
I guess that's more so a universal problem.
yeah.
And we feed off these stereotypes.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from. Islam is a religion of ilm, is a religion of knowledge, right? So sometimes we don't just take things at face value. You know, we have to do the work, you know, try to learn and understand. Like I said, again, you know, you can look at the history and understand that this is a modern, you know, is a you know, is a social construct of our modern world. Because if you look like in the history, there was a time when the whole Islamic empire had one Amir.
Mm.
You know, they had one authority, they had one commander, and everyone, you know, follows those rules and guidance and those regulations, right? So I believe most of the challenges that we're going through right now is based on our modern world of, you know, social construct. I think it's not there to say that it can never change. You know, it has changed in the past. I believe that it's something that can be changed in the future. But it just depends on us coming together and you know, working together and understanding and learning each other and learning about each other a lot more.
So I guess what I really want to ask you is, in your hearts of hearts, um, I know you said at the beginning that although you've not explicitly experienced racism from Asians, do you, in your opinion, think that Asians, I don't know, in those scenarios are actually being racist? Is that what you truly believe, or is that just something that you feel?
Well, the thing is, like the other brother said, you know, you cannot judge people. You cannot judge a whole community of people, you know, because someone says something racist to you, someone, um, you know, does something bad to you. You say, you know, no, I will never do that. I will never do that. I will never judge all Asian people to be racist people. But I do understand where people are coming from. I do understand where the motivation is from. You understand? But again, it has to, everything we do, it has to come from a positive point of view, right? If you have your daughter, you know, you want him to marry to an Asian guy, and she refuses, you don't have to force her. Because when you
That
force, when you foster, that's where the problems is gonna come from, right? So if someone insists on something, look at it,
Yeah, and I
and
think
analyze it, and then
yeah, I think one thing we also need to understand is that racism stems from hate. And I guess you, as someone that is black, you can differentiate between the racism that a black person will get from a white person, as opposed to the racism that you might feel towards um, the racism that you might feel like you're getting from the Asian community. There's obviously a big difference there. One obviously stems from hate, the other kind of stems from a feeling, which is probably ignorance as opposed to racism.
hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
man.
can I even?
That was someone trying to call me, and they cut
Please,
off.
please tell me you heard what I just said.
No, please repeat that, please, man. Someone's trying to
Okay.
call me. And
Okay, maybe
Sorry
I could
about that.
maybe I could shorten this for the sake of a pod and make it a more simpler question. So,
Yeah, please.
as we know, racism is a form of hatred, right? It's a form of hatred towards a specific ethnicity group. So, would you agree that the racism that you as a black person, or black people in general, the racism that they actually experience from white people is different from the racism that you might feel coming from, let's say, the Asian community, which is probably just ignorance as opposed to racism?
Well, to be honest with you, like racism is racism, but it hurts more coming from a Muslim Asian than from a white person who is not Muslim.
Of course, of course.
If you understand where I'm coming from.
Mm.
Because I'm thinking, this brother, we have the same belief, we have the same faith, we have the same guidance, we have the same direction, but we meant to agree, but he's rejecting me, right?
But
Right.
would you say it's that brother is being racist towards you, like that brother hates you for what you are, or he's just ignorant because he's not used to what you are?
Well, it depends. I mean, I cannot generalize when it comes to these things. I believe in every community you have good and bad people, right? So some people will come from ignorance. Some people, like the other brothers, had come from, your geographical, location. Maybe you grew up where you don't mix with people. You only grew up, with your own kind of people. So that's more ignorant thing. And some people, they hate because they have got insecurity. So it's nothing to do with the other person, but they feel like, you know what, he's better than me, so I hate him. I don't like him, or he wear nice clothes, or he looks good, or something good about people. Some people can hate and get jealous because of that. So it's coming from a different motivation. Unless that person tells you exactly, what is motivating their racism, is really a hard thing to say. But the only thing I would say that if a white person is racist against you, there's a history behind it, right? And we know about the whole, the white supremacy and the whole ideology, and that there's a lot of money and a lot of sponsorship that's gone in that. We know where that motivation is coming from. But then you can meet a white person who are the nicest person, they're the most lovely person, they love you, they love your culture, they love your food, they accept everything about you, right? So for me, ultimately, it comes down to two things. It comes down to respecting each other and tolerating each other. As a Muslim people, we should never reject each other. We should tolerate. Toleration means, I probably don't like you, but because you are Muslim, because we have the same faith, we have got certain similar things going on between us. I will tolerate you. I will talk to you. I will listen to you. If I have something, I will share it to you. You know what I mean? And respect. Respect means I like you, like the way I love you, my brother. Whatever you tell me, I believe it. Whatever you advise me to do, I'll listen to you. Whatever, if you criticize me and do something, I'll respect it because I know he's my brother. I love him. He loves me. And I know that, we're real with each other.
Yeah, and I guess the only way we can get past this, and I think we discussed it earlier, but I'll touch on it again. It's more assimilation, more mixing, more actually getting to know people, you know, outside of your race and understanding different cultures, because I feel like the Asian culture doesn't tend to do that enough, and it's something that we need to start doing more. I don't know if you
Definitely.
brothers want to add on that, or
I think yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not just the mixing, but like, for example, small things like trying different foods. Like, we tend to just want to eat our own kind of food. We're not very you know,
experimental.
yeah.
Because your
Or
food tastes so good, man.
yeah, it does.
Even the
But
white people, they don't like it, but they love your food.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I've always tried to promote that in, you know, family, like sort of different foods. But if you were to go up to, say, for example, my mum, and say, do you want to eat this Chinese chow mein? She'll say, no way. There's
Yeah, or if you bring her home plantain, she'll be like, "Who cooks bananas?"
yeah.
Or if you bring home fish and
think it's
chips,
the best
I
thing, man.
don't want to eat no Korean food, which
Yeah.
basically means I don't want to eat no white man's food.
Yeah, so it's just these small things, you know, like eating, you know, the food, and maybe events, you know, like we might celebrate Eid in a certain way, we might dress a certain way. I have when obviously now it's the lockdown now, but a couple of years ago there was an event in Oxford for Eid, and I took the family, and there was different cultures there. You know, everyone was in their different, like, you know, their cultural clothes, and it was a good experience, and they really enjoyed it. So I think those kind of and plus, like, the masjid is like the hub, you know. The masjid is not just a place to pray, but it's a place for education, you know. The concept of the mosque has changed quite a lot, but for example, when I was at university, the mosque that I went to, that they held these kind of events, you know. They held multicultural events, and somebody would bring, for, you know, if it was Ramadan, for one iftari, somebody would feed everyone their cultural food. And it's just these things that bring people together.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was gonna, touch upon that. Like AJ, you said, we need to do more mixing. We need to be coming together. That's spot on. As well, like the brother said, the masjid is not just a place. According to the Quran, the Sunnah, and historically, the masjid is not a place where we just pray the rakah and everyone goes their way. The masjid will be the community center. We need to, ask questions. We need to, ask our community leaders, why can they not get together? Why can we not have a proper representation of the Muslim community? Because the masjid is the place where we can all get together, we all meet. But we need to ask them these questions. Why can they not do more?
But that's also a problem, because I touched on the point, and I'm talking specifically about where I'm from. The masjids that my family tends to go to are 99.9% Pakistani. There's no assimilation. There's no blacks. There's no whites. And if they and you're right, they are the community and the central hub. But if that central hub only has one ethnicity group, then nothing's going to change.
Yeah,
or maybe a few masjids can come together. Maybe within that,
the thing is that Asian masjids are very I don't want to say ignorant, but they're very stuck in their ways. They won't want to mix with let's say a masjid that's I don't know, like half black and maybe like half other ethnicity, because they'll feel like their beliefs are different. And Asians are quite proud.
No,
of
that's not the case. That's not the case.
I think it's the case. I think it's the case.
What do you think the case is, brother?
He's basically alluding to that a lot of the Pakistani mosques are, Sufis and stuff like that. There's African Sufis, there's European Sufis, there's American Sufis, there's subcontinent Sufis.
But I can only talk about my own experience.
Let me finish. The problem is the language, bro. Right? You go on Jummah, right? And the khutbah nowadays, okay, since it started to become in English, there's bro, in Oxford Mansell Mosque, we see loads of diversity. In general prayers, you don't, because obviously people are doing their own thing. They'll go to their nearest mosque, so to speak. The issue is the language, bro. When the khutbah used to be in Urdu or Punjabi, it was all mainly Asians. The moment they brought in a younger imam, a more like an open-minded imam, and who speaks the language properly and who's able to deliver speech in English, the other communities started coming in. Language is the main issue.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, and I think that's obviously something that my masjid need to adopt, because obviously there has been a few occasions where you might get some out of town brothers that are maybe like black or white come into the masjid. If a khutbah's in white, sorry, not in white. If a khutbah's in it was in my head. If a khutbah's in Urdu or whatever language, let's say this specific language, then they're not going to understand what's going on. And yeah, I guess you're right. I guess it does come down to language, importantly as well.
I mean, there's various issues there, but it's good we are pointing out, these issues.
Yeah. See, in Oxford, you've got 3 mosques that are from the subcontinent. So you've got the Bangladeshi mosque. You've got one of the Pakistani mosques, which is majority Deobandi, and you've got the other one, which is the Pakistani mosque, majority Brelvi. So, but these 3 mosques, all 3 of them, they used to deliver khutbahs in their native tongue. Yeah, so 2 Pakistanis, the other one was Bangladeshi. So other people, they used to pray in like town when there used to be a mosque there in Oxford City Centre. There used to be a university mosque there, a small one. They used to pray there. Since they started, and the pressure came from the younger people in the community. They were like, look, you're the youth, they can't speak their native tongue at home, and you're expecting them, you're doing khutbahs with them, you're delivering Islamic knowledge to them in the native tongue, which they don't really comprehend too well.
I love how you referred to the masjids as Pakistani,
Yeah.
Bengali, rather than 3 main masjids.
Yeah, no, but
okay, I'll say Asian.
But
that kind of,
Pakistani masjid or Somali masjid, and there's a Somali masjid in Reading, Somali masjid, yeah. But masjid is supposed to be a masjid,
Yeah, exactly.
We do have that. We do say that quite a lot.
And that's why the importance in this country is that you deliver it in a universal language, and that's English.
Yeah.
You can have your little they're called halakas, right? You can have your little gatherings and you can deliver your speeches, especially the older people who are more loyal to the mosque than the younger people are, in my experience, and especially within the community. It might not be the case in non-community mosques, but their loyalties are that they've been going to that mosque for a number of years, and they have that connection because it's a Pakistani mosque. They speak Urdu, they speak the language. They don't understand English too well, so you can have your small gatherings with them in their native tongue. But generally, on a macro level, every mosque in the country should speak English and deliver khutbahs in English as the primary language.
And it's not just important.
That's a good point, brother. Just quickly, AJ, you know what the brother said there? About the older generation, they are more committed to the masjid, and he's saying that we only speak our own mother tongues in those masjid, and the young generation, they don't understand that language, and that brings a disconnect. That actually brings let people distance themselves. Like the young, maybe they go to the masjid, they only see the old people in the masjid, and they don't understand the language, so it's like driving them away from the masjid. So maybe these are all the claims that we need to put out there, how we can make it more tolerant.
Yeah, I always thought as well that the khutbah should be in English, not just for assimilation, but also because of the younger generation. Because when I'm at the masjid, I feel like the younger generation don't even understand what's being said. because their primary language is English, being born in this
And
country.
also the khutbahs delivered, especially if they're in Urdu, they're delivered in like a complicated format of Urdu. So you would say, you know, if you say like classical English, like we call it posh English, right? We might not understand some of the words in some of these big words. When they deliver these khutbahs in
I
Urdu,
do.
because the alim, because the imam, he's, you know, very knowledgeable, they'll use complicated words that us laymen we can't really understand. We don't, if they use that word a couple of times in a sentence, we might not understand the whole sentence or what their whole point that they're trying to make.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, brothers, I think we should wrap it up here, only because I need to go. I got to prepare for my iftar in about an hour. Unless we've got anything else to discuss, should we call it a day?
No, I think it's been a really insightful discussion, and I think we should definitely host an episode in its entirety on, you know, mosques in the UK and the importance of language, the interculture. What's the thing? Inter. I can't think of the word at the moment. But
Yeah, and you know what?
Intergenerational, and breaking down these barriers, because at the end of the day, we're brothers and sisters in Islam, right? There's no like, oh, you're too young to study the deen, you're too old and you're too qualified to teach the deen, kind of thing. Yes, you have to teach the deen, you have to have certain qualifications, but the key thing is that you don't discriminate between students and imams.
Yeah, it's important.
And the laymen as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is really important understanding and learning about other people's cultures as well. Very educational as well. And it'll be good to have Brother Ali back on the podcast when, you know, lockdown's over, maybe to do this in person.
No, I really enjoyed it. You know, I think it's very exciting. You know, I really enjoyed the conversation with all the brothers. And I think we should do more of this, you know, we should do more of it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you know, the only thing I'm gonna, conclude with, we have a responsibility of brotherhood. We have a responsibility of community, and we need real leadership. Unfortunately, the Muslim Ummah today, it's segregated and divided. Like I said it before, when you are divided, you are designed to be dominated. You know, so maybe we need to press these claims, see how we can come together as a people, because unity ultimately, you know, conquers everything. You know, with unity, we bring more resources together, we bring more ideas together, we do more actions together. You know, and ultimately that's the goal. You know, so we need to get off from, you know, because we're in a position now where we're down there. You know, we need to aim for the ultimate goal. And, you know, doing program like this and bringing ideas and research together, you know, inshallah will make us do our part, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Definitely.
Jazakallah, brother. And have a good iftar as well. And let's make dua for all the Muslim community, inshallah.
Inshallah. Ali, I'll see you soon as well, inshallah.
Inshallah. Hopefully we get together and have some Nigerian food soon, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Lovely speaking with you, brother. Jazakallah.